was just wondering if you could talk about like each of the scenes that were taken out of the ruins,
Yeah.
and whose like if some of those were your idea, or some of that was the studio,
Yeah.
and also what other endings you were toying with.
Yeah.
Because I know you said there were like at least like four that
Yeah,
you
we
you
shot
had.
5 different endings for the film, and I mean, there's this incredible thing that happens when you're working on a studio film, which is called the testing process. And I got my director's cut after X amount of weeks, and then you test it and you put it in front of an audience of like 300 real people, and then you sit there and they fill out forms, and they pick about 20 of them to stay afterwards, and there's like a moderator who just asks them questions and tries to find out things that they didn't understand, or that if they thought it was slow, or if they liked the amount of blood, or whatever it is. And so you sort of become a slave to this testing process and this scoring process. And so basically, what happened was that the first scene where Matthias finds his brother's body, that happened. That scene was sort of right at the beginning when they get to the ruins, and it just, that part of the film in particular, that first sort of afternoon and night when they arrived, always dragged a little bit. Like, it always just sort of felt like we've just had this great moment where Dimitri gets his head blown off, and Matthias is about to fall down the well, and there's all this good stuff, but it felt like all of a sudden we were putting the brakes on. And so we tried lifting it out just to sort of play with the pacing, and kind of really liked what it did. I mean, it was too bad because it sort of informed. I mean, it sort of put the Matthias character in a much worse place to have just found his brother. But sometimes the pacing is more important. And then the hand job scene was something that was never actually in the script. It was something from the book that I had always liked, and we shot it and we put it in. And one of the questions on these testing forums that they give you is, what's your favorite scene? What's your least favorite scene? And out of 345 people, like 320 of them said that they hated the hand job scene. That's I mean, that's really apparently rare to get that definitive of an answer about how an audience feels. And I think that people just, and again, it was in that part of the film that's a little slow, and they just, I think, maybe didn't understand why it was happening, or where it was coming from. And it's not particularly sexy. It's awkward and it's a little uncomfortable to watch. And I mean, those are the reasons I like it. But I mean, the people at DreamWorks are not really they haven't really done a film like this before. They haven't done like a really sort of punishing hardcore horror film, and I think that their reaction to the gore and the blood was just a little bit like, ooh, oh no, I don't know about that. And so we ended up pulling back a little bit on the amputation, and making it a little less graphic, and then keeping the operation on Stacy kind of graphic, because what we found was, if the amputation happens pretty early in the film, and if you go right from the beginning and say, okay, this is a movie, we're going to show you everything. We're going to show this knife sawing through the meat, and it's, when stuff happens later, people are already sort of expecting it, and it doesn't really take them by surprise in the same way. So we kind of found that by scaling back on the amputation, it made the stuff that happens later a lot more effective. Minus the Greeks, with her with getting the vine, having the vine in her, that was the ending through every, through the first like 6 or 7 test screenings. Because we do this thing over and over and over, and it all comes down to a score. It comes down to one number. And it's always trying to get the score up, trying to get the score up, trying to get the score up. And Steven Spielberg was like, I think that she should get away at the end. And everyone was kind of like, oh, I don't know. I mean, you read the book. It's a downer ending. It's kind of what everyone loves about the book. Like, he's like, let's just try it. And so we shot an extra day in Australia, put it in, and our scores went up like 24 points or something, which is a lot. And so it was sort of like, it's a little hard to argue with when all of a sudden people are reacting to the film in a completely different way.
Was there any deeper meaning for Bugcrush? And two, when you were done with Bugcrush, how long did it take for them to say, "Oh, hey, we want this guy to do Ruins"?
Was there any DVD or deeper meaning?
Deeper meaning.
Oh,
Sorry.
I mean, I think that the deeper meaning, I think, is, so can sort of mean different things to different people. I mean, I feel like it's, you know, a lot of it for me was just about, telling the story of like an outsider, and this sort of moment in your life when, you don't really have, I mean, that much common sense. And if you have this, I mean, I think everyone has had these crushes where you would just do the stupidest things in the world to get close to, whoever it is that you're trying to get close to, and how you sort of become blind to what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, and I mean, so for me, it was more just about like a cautionary sort of tale. I mean, I don't, I mean, it's a story that isn't necessarily meant to be like enjoyed, because I know it's not really like an enjoyable story, but I mean, I just like the idea of manipulating an audience, in the way of like they just don't know what's happening next, and you think it's going to be one thing, and then you think it's going to be something else, and then oh wait, it's like psychedelic bugs, I mean, I just kind of liked the the ride that the story takes, and takes these turns, but I mean, I don't think that it's, I don't think that it's any sort of like moral tale, like, gay teenagers are bad and should be, gang raped in barns or anything like that, But it was just one kid's story, and I grew up in a small town. That was my high school. That road is the road that my house was on, And when I read the short story that it was based on, there was just so many things in the story that I was like, that I identify with. Is just growing up as a kid that was like in the art room all the time and in drama class, and definitely like not the kid that was like with the most friends and the real popular person. And then from we were at Sundance in 2006, and I mean, I guess we were in Sundance and Cannes, and then I got an agent after Sundance in LA, who sort of made sure that everyone in LA, all the studios and all the producers and everyone had seen it, and I mean, I started reading scripts like just immediately afterwards, like February, March after Sundance, and I got the Ruins script. Well, I went. A couple of the executives at DreamWorks had seen Bugcrush. They brought me out to LA, and just sort of said, "Listen, we don't have a project right now that we think that would be good for you, but we want to be in business with you. We want to make a movie with you. Please make a movie with us. If there's anything you want to do, bring it to us. If there's anything, what kind of stuff do you want to do?" And then they sent me a couple scripts, and like, they were bad. They were, they weren't things that I was interested in. And then I got the Ruins, and I was just reading the book, and Scott Smith, who wrote the book, wrote the screenplay, and it was the most well-written script that I'd read, in the entire, in the whole 9 months that I'd been looking for stuff. I mean, it was really suspenseful and really tightly written, and the characters sort of jumped off the page, and I got that in August, I think, and I did a whole song and dance presentations, meetings, probably I probably did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 meetings, doing pitches and presentations and showing them visual references, and sort of just kind of trying to convey to them what the movie that I wanted to make was. And it was sort of, I started with the producers and the junior execs, and then went to the next level of producers, and then went to the next level of execs, and then went to the president of the studio, and then finally like the last meeting was with Spielberg, and that was yeah, after that I got the job.